What's up, entrepreneurs? Welcome to another interview here on BatchTV, where we help you identify the switch you need to flip in order to unlock your full potential. My name's Kyle Redmond, and today we have the honor of interviewing Tony Romero, one of the youngest hustlers in the wholesale real estate game. Tony is a serial entrepreneur and has built 5 different profitable businesses. Many know him for his success in the real estate wholesaling business, Tony as a mentor, in his mentorship program, his speaking engagements, but most don't know that Tony is only 23 years old. Also, he's the owner of a pet groomer and multiple taco trucks, which is crazy. I've had the pleasure of actually eating tacos from those taco trucks. So today we're going to pull back the curtains and deep dive into how Tony was able to accomplish so much in such little time. Honestly, I can't wait to jump into this episode. But before we do, don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring the bell so we can keep providing you educational content for free. All right, so now that we got that out of the way, with further ado, I give to you Tony Romero. Let's get it.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man.
One thing we all want to know, Tony, is who is Tony Romero, and what should people know about you when it comes to your story and journey of becoming a successful entrepreneur?
Yeah, so Tony Romero out of Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I didn't go to college, which is one of the things that I always like to talk about. Started in the wholesale business at 21. I like to say that I got a little bit lucky. I started, thankfully I started the day I did, and 4 days in, got my first deal, made $25,000 on that deal. It was a pre-foreclosure in my city, so in my own background. Took about 3 hours of total work on that deal, and that pretty much changed my mindset around money. I had worked 2 full-time jobs prior to that, the year prior, and made $35,000 in that year. And with this one deal, I made $25,000. Mm-hmm. So it was big for me. Honestly, I thought wholesaling was a scam for a long time. I didn't think you could actually make that much money or that it would actually go into your pocket. Thought there were a bunch of hidden fees or hidden things that were going to come out of it. And no, so that was big for me because I can actually see the check. Even when I had the check, I was like, it's probably not even all mine. But once I hit my bank account officially, it was like, okay. Yeah. So then we scaled that company fairly quickly. Did $500,000 our first year. And then eventually, grew other businesses. Pet grooming was the second business that I got into with my wife. And we're now scaling that one. That's booked out till February. So you can't even get an appointment if you wanted to for the next 3 months. Since the day we've opened, we've been, till February. And then now have, some taco trucks, software company, our mentorship, and, the wholesale business. So doing a lot of great things and putting some events together. So, I guess I'm really young. It's been 2 years. Crazy what can happen in 2 years when you put in a lot of work and delegate a lot of the tasks. So that's kind of what we've been doing.
So when you were younger, okay, what was one of your first hustles?
Yeah.
And how did that make you realize that entrepreneurship was the route you were going to take?
Yeah. So one, I hated school. So that really, that was one of the, I try to always find different avenues to put my focus into. I knew I hated school, and it just wasn't for me. I didn't like the rules. I never liked to follow them. But got into, when I was younger, probably in my teenage years, I got into flipping shoes. That was one of my first ones, all cash transactions, selling them through Facebook. At Marquette, which is the school I went to, there was an organization, a Hispanic organization that would sell churros. I found the source pretty much of where they were selling them from.
Wait, you found the source of churros?
Yes, of where they were getting them at least.
Okay.
Because generally at most of the places where they're selling bread, they won't wholesale it to you, but this particular place would. And so they were selling them retail at $2 at their shop. And then if you, at that time, I could get the small ones for 25 cents and the big ones for 50 cents. Mm-hmm. I could sell them for $1.50 for the small one, $2 for the big ones, or $1, $2, but I did $1.50. And so I found the source, and I would actually go order 100, 200, and then flip them during school.
On that standpoint, Tony has a very successful event called Hustle Harder event. I actually had the pleasure of attending this year. And while I was there, I noticed that Tony was always hustling. He was on his grind, okay? So when you started out in your wholesaling business, what did that day-to-day grind look like?
Oh, that's a really good question. When I first started in this business, it was thankfully I started in a really good time because, like you said, a lot of younger kids tend to spend their money right away, or they get their first big check. It's 20, 30 grand, and they start doing photo shoots and buying all the stuff that they wish they always wish to have. But if they've waited that long, you can continue to wait for a while. Just because you got it one check doesn't mean you've made it. Yep. And so it takes a lot to continuously get more and more deals and invest. But in the beginning, we were working long days because it was during COVID and quarantine. There was no stores you can go to. There were no parties. There was nothing. There were no nightclubs open. Everything was closed. Restaurants were closed. So it was a really good time to just focus and grind. Yep. And that's what we did. So since that was all we had to do, we would work probably most days till 7, 8 p.m. at night. After my guys would leave, I would be the one to go out and just make sure all the trash was thrown away. I would wipe down all their desks. I would wipe down their monitors. I would clean all the whiteboards. I would vacuum every single night the office, just to make sure that when they came back the next day, since we were working long hours, they were going to feel comfortable about their environment and making sure that they were just ready to go. And then at nighttime, I would watch podcasts nonstop. Whatever I could find on, whether it was sales or mainly sales, and then other people's stories to kind of get inspired and figure out what our target goals should be. And then learning about softwares. That's when our first software that we got into was Batch. So learning more about Batch and how we can use it to elevate our business, and then learning a lot about the skip tracing and how that worked was a big part of it too.
Great. And it's kind of a blessing in disguise, right? I believe that also, when you start a business, you have to put everything into it, but you have to get momentum, right? It's like Elon Musk, right? When he starts a business, let's just think of like SpaceX for an analogy. When you have a rocket and you shoot it from the ground into space, majority of the fuel is spent within, the first couple minutes of actually getting that rocket off the ground and getting it momentum, so that once it gets higher and higher, then it's just coasting, right? And it's less energy because it has momentum. So I think that's key in the way you said that you worked every single day in the beginning of your business. I'm sure you're doing it, but you were grinding 24/7, 365 all day long, and you were being consistent with it, right? And that's a big part of where I see people failing is that they think they can just dabble, right? There's no reason. If you have a business, like, you need to go all in, all right? You got to go all in, and you got to put everything you got into it in the beginning so that you guys can reap the rewards in the future, right? And then you can hire for those positions. So that's key on what you said. Especially at a young age, you don't see that much.
Well, also just a piece of advice for everybody, and I tend to try to get this message out a lot more because it's something that Gary Vee pushes a lot, is I was at a stage where I had no bills. So yes, I got lucky and I got my first deal 4 days in. It was luck, consistency, and just the fact that I started when I started. Instead of saying, hey, I'm going to start next week, I'm putting it off, I'm busy, I got work, I got this. Yep. It was starting that same day. If I wouldn't have started then, if I would have started a week later, that's why I tell people, start now. Like, you're already missing out on opportunities. But as Gary Vee always says, oh great, now I'm blanking out. But as we're young, while you have no bills, I had no car bills, I had no rent, I had none of these things. So I knew that for example, that 25 grand, I didn't have it a week prior, or a month prior, or a year prior. So having that money and now understanding the business, if I put everything back into the business, even if I failed, that knowledge that I'm going to have to then move forward is going to catapult me. Mm-hmm. And I can't lose out on that knowledge. But also, even if I do fail, I know how to do the business. I can do it again. It'll take time, but I can do it again. So the best time, if you guys are young out there and you guys are just trying to figure out this business, go hard now while you can. Because especially if you live with your parents and you have, at the end of the day, if you let's just say you close 20K and you struggle to get your second deal and you blow all your money just trying to reinvest, you're going to learn a lot of things through that process. And at the end of the day, you can still live at home, eat some ramen noodles every day because you don't have any money, and get back up on your feet and start it over again. But it's going to work. And so that was one of my mindsets, is just like continuously moving forward and investing it all. Because if I don't, before that, I was really bad at managing my money. I didn't have any money. So if I already didn't have any, I know how it feels to not have money, and I survived through it. So you just keep, you want to take that risk, especially while you're young, because you have your parents to lay back on and fall on. And if you guys are in a rush to move out of your home, you're not making good money, stay at home. Work from your house, work from your room, create this business, work on it long term. And you don't have to go super, super, super fast, but as long as you're making progress every single day, you're going to make it.
There you go. For all you young hustlers out there, take note. So we briefly talked about your mentorship program. As a mentor, what is the best advice you could give to somebody starting out in their business? Obviously, we just talked about taking action right away, investing into yourself, learning, right? What other pillar do you think you could give to them that they can use in order to grow their business like now?
One, I would try to say, like, don't try to, especially a lot of people before they get into this business, they have the wrong mindset around it. And one is when people do end up closing a deal, they say, I talk to people all the time, like, have you closed a deal? They're like, yeah, but it was just 5K. Yeah, that's 5K you didn't have before. Like 5K that you probably, that's a lot of money, I'm sure, to you. And just because you're seeing all these people make a crazy amount of money doesn't mean that you shouldn't be satisfied with that 5K. But budgeting, making sure that you understand, hey, if I have 10 grand, you don't want to blow it all in 1 month. You want to say, hey, how do I spend money so I can be in the business for the next 5 months? And that would mean, spending 2 grand every single month to be able, because it's not going to happen from night to day. It's going to take time, and you're going to learn you're going to fail and you're going to learn, you're going to fail and you're going to learn. But eventually, as long as you're consistent, it's going to hit. You don't want to just put everything into your first month or into your first 2 months. That's why a lot of people, they tend to hire VAs because they're impatient. So they think that just throwing a bunch of money into the business is going to help them. But it's not that easy. You actually have to put in the work. And honestly, the more work you put in, the better of a leader you're going to be when you start hiring, because your people that are going to rely on you are going to see that you actually understand the business. When you have VAs, you're not going to know how to close a deal. You're not going to know how to cold call. You're not going to know how to, manage different situations when a seller is just throwing rejection and rejection and rejection at your face. You have to learn these skills, and it's frustrating, but that's how you're going to be a good leader, and that's how you're going to be in this industry. And to be honest, like I tell my students this all the time, if I literally had no money or very, very little money, all you literally need is batch lists to pull your lists, batch skip tracing to skip trace your list, and then just call from your phone, hand dial, or if you can afford one other thing, it'd be batch dialer so you can dial. Literally just that alone can help make you hundreds of thousands of dollars. And we've used batch since day one. It's probably one of 2 softwares that we've still kept from day one that are still in our business using every single day.
Wow. And if you're not doing it, then you're not going to learn the SOPs and create the SOPs to give to your VAs as well. That's key. Every day, they see online, they see all the main stage speeches, they see the YouTube channels, the cars, the bling, the Gucci, right? But when you pull back the curtain of what it takes to be successful in a business, I mean, it's a grind. So I think we'd all like to know, like, what are some of the challenges that you've overcome within your business, and that you've had to face? What is a big challenge that you've had to overcome in order to get you to where you are today?
Yeah. Well, I'll even just kind of reference like the taco truck business. Like my new taco truck's been open for 3 weeks. It's been losing money every single day because people they know the brand, but they don't know that location. The location's too far and you're still testing locations out. So like there's bad days, and that's going to happen. And you have to go through those periods. Like it's not just going to hit just because I park it in a spot and the brand isn't out there. It's going to have to go through the phase of losing money because the employees have to be there. They have to get paid. If you don't sell enough, certain product goes bad, so you got to throw it away, and you got to still buy new product because it's on your menu. So you have to sell it and you have to prepare it. So it's lessons like those that there's just certain things that you have to go through. And that's one of the ones I'm going through right now. It's like this taco truck is losing money, but I have to go through it. And hopefully within the next 3 weeks, it'll pick up to the point where it's at least breaking even. And then it might stay that way for a couple more weeks or a couple months, who knows, and then continue to scale that way. And so those are some of the things you have to go through. I mean, there's been, tons of things that we have to go through. I can't think of any. I mean, there's been like deals that have fallen apart for us, where, sellers find out that we're wholesaling their deals, and then they come back with, projected lawsuit or wanting to do a lawsuit. And we have to price drop on the deal because they want to make more money on the deal. I've had to sleep in my office because I've been in the office so late. So there's just so much that you have to go through to be an entrepreneur. And like you said, it's not always, it's most of the time it's not pretty.
Yep.